On my birthday, Mom said, "We sold your car and cashed out your college fund. Your sister deserves a fresh start." Then she slid over a loan agreement, co-sign her $25,000 debt or get out. I didn't argue. I just packed. By morning, they found the letter I left behind. Now my sister's panicking, Dad's driving around looking for me, and Mom's crying in the kitchen. I'm Alex, 20 years old, and as of 3 weeks ago, I no longer live with my family. My birthday had always been complicated, not painful, not tragic, just awkward. Like the whole family remembered, but no one wanted to put effort into actually celebrating. My parents would throw a small dinner, maybe a store-bought cake if I was lucky, and my sister Emma would usually overshadow the whole thing by picking a fight or forgetting entirely. This year, I told myself I didn't care. I had plans. I'd save quietly from my part-time job at the campus bookstore. I had a used car I paid off myself, a small scholarship from a writing contest, and an acceptance letter from my dream university waiting on the desk in my room. I figured even if my family didn't throw confetti, I could enjoy a quiet evening knowing I'd carved out something for myself, but I was wrong. It started with a call downstairs. Just, "Alex, come down. We need to talk." No. "Happy birthday." No gift bag on the table. Just Mom sitting stiff on the couch, arms crossed, and Dad beside her, jaw clenched like he was holding back something he didn't want to say. Emma sat in the armchair, staring at the TV like she wasn't fully present. I felt my stomach sink before anyone even opened their mouth. Mom went first. "We've made a decision," she said, brushing invisible lint off her knee. "Emma's had a rough year. You know that." That's what she always opened with. "Emma's had a rough year" was her favorite way to excuse anything from a failed class to a totaled car. She dropped out of community college after 2 semesters, wrecked our family car, which our parents then replaced, and recently lost her second job in 4 months. Somehow, despite all that, she still had the latest iPhone and never chipped in a dime for groceries. Dad cleared his throat. "She needs a clean slate, a real chance to reset." I nodded slowly, unsure what this had to do with me. That's when Mom smiled, and not the kind of smile that meant good news. "So we sold the Corolla." It took me a second to process what she meant. "My car. You don't need it," she said. Her voice quick like she was trying to get through a script. "You're not commuting this semester. You said your classes were mostly online." That doesn't mean I started, but she held up a hand. "We also repurposed your college savings," she continued. Each word carefully chosen like she'd rehearsed this in her head 100 times. "Emma has some debt. 25,000. She got into a little trouble with loans, and we need to help her out of it before it spirals." I felt something behind my eyes, a sharp, hot pressure that I refused to let turn into tears. "That's my college fund." "You're still going to college," Dad said quickly. "You've got that scholarship, right?" "It's partial," I said flatly. "It only covers part of the tuition and none of housing." "We'll figure something out," Mom said, way too cheerfully. "Actually, we already have. Emma found a place, and if you two split rent." "No." That was the first time I'd raised my voice. Not loud, not aggressive, just final. And that's when Mom slid the paper across the coffee table. A loan agreement, already filled out. All they needed was my signature. It was for the remaining balance on Emma's debt. The line at the bottom read, "Cosigner, Alexander James Walker." If you cosign, Mom said gently, she gets the money, fixes her credit, and we all move forward. If you don't, well, we'll have to ask you to leave. We just can't afford both of you under one roof if you're not helping the family. The room was still. Dad wasn't making eye contact. Emma hadn't looked away from the TV. I stared at the paper then back at her. So I either agree to ruin my credit for her or I pack my things. "It's what families do," she said as if that made it okay. "We support each other." I didn't argue. I just stood up, nodded, and said, "Noted." Upstairs, I packed slowly. Not because I had too much to take, just clothes, my laptop, the documents I kept in a locked drawer, but because every minute was thick with disbelief. I kept waiting for one of them to knock, to say it was a joke, to apologize, to stop me. No one did. Before leaving, I wrote a letter, not a dramatic one, just the facts. I wouldn't cosign. I wouldn't stay, and I wouldn't be reachable for a while. I left it on the kitchen counter with my spare key and locked the door behind me. By morning, my phone had over 20 missed calls. The first voicemail was Emma, sounding almost frantic. "Alex, where are you? I need that signature or I'm done. Call me." The second was Dad. "Alex, let's talk. Your mother's upset." The third was Mom, sobbing into the receiver and mumbling something about how I was overreacting. But the one that stuck with me most was the fourth, Dad, again, but this time out of breath like he was walking. "I'm driving around, checking the library, the train station, your old job. Just call us, please." I haven't, and I don't think I will. I didn't sleep much that first night, but I didn't cry either. I stayed at a 24-hour diner near the edge of town, one of those places that smells like burnt coffee and pancake syrup. Even at 2 a.m. I sat in the corner booth, backpack next to me, hoodie up, watching the headlights go by through the foggy window. The waitress didn't ask questions. She just kept refilling my cup, sometimes with fresh coffee, sometimes just hot water as if she knew I wasn't drinking it for the taste. I must have looked like every other runaway kid who came through there, but I wasn't a kid, and I hadn't run away. I'd walked out calm, conscious, and completely done. The next morning, I checked into a cheap extended stay motel using the emergency savings I'd stashed away, cash I'd saved from tutoring kids at school and selling a few freelance essays online. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And I realized something. For the first time in a long time, everything I had, every dollar, every decision was mine. The voicemails didn't stop. They just got louder. Emma left a string of angry messages, each one more desperate than the last. "You don't get it, Alex. You messed me over. I had a deal lined up. I just needed that cosign, and now everything's gone. You owe me, Alex. You're my brother." Then silence for a day. Then they're saying they might repossess the car, and Mom's not doing well. She's barely eating. She always had a way of making other people's pain my responsibility, but I didn't respond. I didn't block the number either, not yet. I wanted to hear how far they'd fall without me. Is that petty? Maybe. But when you've spent 19 years being the backup plan for people who only call you when they're in trouble, silence feels a lot like justice. Mom's messages shifted from guilt to bargaining. "We didn't mean to ambush you," she said in one. "We were just scared. Emma's your sister. You're older. You're supposed to help her." I laughed at that. I was older by 11 minutes. Technically, twins, with me born at 11:49 p.m. and Emma arriving just after midnight. But that little technicality had always come with extra expectations. I was the responsible one, the one who didn't throw tantrums, who didn't crash the family car, or get caught lying about failing grades. And apparently, that made me the designated fixer. I didn't tell anyone where I was, not friends, not coworkers, not even my academic advisor, though I knew I'd have to eventually. For a few days, I lived in the quiet. I found a part-time job at a storage unit facility nearby, the kind that pays under the table and doesn't ask questions. I used the motel's Wi-Fi to contact my university and request a deferment. I said there had been a family emergency, which wasn't entirely a lie. They gave me a semester off. No penalty. I'd reapply for housing once things settled, if things ever settled. About a week after I left, I got a message from my aunt, Mom's younger sister, the only one in the family who had ever seemed to genuinely like me. She wrote, "Call me. Just 5 minutes. I'm not here to guilt you. I just want you to hear what happened." I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. When I finally called her, she answered on the first ring. "Alex." Her voice was soft, and I could hear traffic in the background. "I don't know where you are, and I'm not going to ask. But your mom's unraveling. Your dad looks like he hasn't slept in days. Emma's been grounded, not literally, but emotionally. I think she's finally starting to realize no one's going to bail her out this time." I stayed quiet. "I told them they crossed a line," she added. "I said if you were my son, I'd be ashamed of what they did." That caught me off guard. My aunt was the kind of woman who didn't ruffle feathers. Her saying something, anything, was huge. "They think you're just being dramatic," she continued. "But I know better. I know you've been holding that family together for years." She paused, then asked gently, "Do you want me to pass along a message? Even just to say you're okay?" I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream to lay it all out. Another part wanted to disappear entirely. So I just said, "Tell them I'm safe. And tell Mom this. I was her son, not her solution." There was silence on the other end. Then a quiet, "Okay." The next day, I got a notification from my bank. The account my parents had access to, the one they used to move money around, occasionally slipping into my savings when they were tied on bills, had been cleaned out. Only this time, it wasn't my account. It was theirs. And what I saw next nearly made me drop my phone. Several chargebacks. All the recent transfers from my fund, gone. The money had been reversed by the bank due to unauthorized activity. I had filed a complaint before leaving. At the time, I didn't think it would go anywhere. But apparently, with proof of ownership and a detailed report of manipulation, they sided with me. I was getting it back. My car money, my tuition money, my future. And Mom? Well, based on the last voicemail I received, just breathing, just crying, I had a feeling the reality was finally sinking in. I haven't decided what to do next. Part of me wants to build a new life quietly somewhere they can't reach me. Another part wants to confront them face to face, not to scream, not to gloat, but just to exist in front of them as someone they no longer control. But for now, I'm watching the pieces fall, and I haven't picked up the phone. Not yet. The motel room was cramped, but it was mine. The sheets were stiff, and the AC wheezed like it was on its last breath. But the silence, the real silence, was priceless. No one knocking at the door asking if I could cover someone's gas. No guilt tripping over dinner. No Emma barging in at midnight needing something, then muttering, "You're such a buzzkill," when I said no. I used to think quiet was boring. Now I clung to it like oxygen. I spent the next few days in what I'd call a productive limbo. I mapped out everything, budgeted the refunded money, divided it between a high-yield account and a new bank they didn't know about, submitted applications for campus housing near my university, and made arrangements to retrieve my official documents. It turned out, my old high school still had a sealed copy of my transcript and birth certificate on file, something I never thought I'd be grateful for. I even started drafting a new essay for a few additional scholarships, this time with a story that was very real. And all the while, the calls kept coming. Not as frequently now. Just one every couple of days. But the tone had changed, something I didn't expect. It was Dad this time. His voice was lower, strained. "Alex, listen. I know we messed up. I'm not going to pretend we didn't. I didn't even want to go along with it. Your mom said it was a temporary solution, that we pay it back, that Emma would shape up. I should have said no. I should have protected you. I didn't delete the voicemail, but I didn't return it either. I sat with it for a while, listening again and again, trying to hear if there was any real remorse or if it was just another trick, another wave in the cycle of "You're the stable one, fix it for us." But what really caught me off guard wasn't the guilt in Dad's voice. It was what came next. "Your mother's not well," he said. "Since you left, she's barely functioning. She keeps saying you're going to come back, that it was just a bad birthday and you'll forgive her. But I think deep down, she knows she crossed a line." I sat in my motel bed, phone pressed against my ear, the blue TV glow flickering across the wallpaper like a ghost. I should have felt something. Sadness, anger, maybe even sympathy, but I didn't. All I felt was distance, like he was describing strangers, not family. A few hours later, I got a text from an unknown number. "You could have just said no. You didn't have to humiliate them. No name. No punctuation. Just that." I didn't have to guess who it was. Emma had a very specific tone when she wasn't getting her way. That kind of half-pitiful, half-blaming attitude, like the world owed her everything and anyone who disagreed was cruel. I stared at the message for a long time. Then, almost on instinct, I opened notes on my phone and started writing a reply I never sent. "You used to steal my chargers, my money, my clothes, and my time. I stayed silent. You crashed the car, blamed me, and I still kept your secret. I covered for you when you were high at Mom's birthday dinner. I stayed quiet. I paid rent when you didn't. I stayed quiet. I gave up weekends, sleep, my mental health, and you called me dramatic when I finally broke. And now you say I humiliated them? No, Emma. I just stopped protecting you. That's all. I didn't send it. I didn't need to. Some truths were better left unsaid and unanswered." That night, I dreamed I was back in the living room, sitting across from Mom while she slid that loan document across the coffee table again. Except this time, I didn't stay silent. In the dream, I stood up, grabbed it, and lit it on fire in front of her. She didn't move, just watched it burn, her face unreadable. And when I turned to leave, she whispered, "You'll be back. You always come back." I woke up sweating. I checked my phone out of habit. Another voicemail from my sister. "We're not close. She moved out when I was 13 and never really looked back. Visits were rare and awkward, but she was always cordial. I assumed she stayed distant because of the chaos at home, self-preservation in its purest form." Her message was short. "Hey, it's Claire. I just heard what happened from Aunt Jen. I'm proud of you. I know that probably sounds weird coming from me, but I am. It took me way too long to walk away, and I still don't think I ever fully did. Just, if you need a place to land, I've got a guest room. No strings, no lectures. Just let me know." I didn't realize how tightly I was gripping the phone until I felt my fingers ache. Her voice, calm, quiet, real, hit harder than I expected. I saved the message. Later that day, I walked into a used car lot with cash in hand. Not enough for anything flashy, but enough for a decent second-hand sedan. I picked a navy blue Honda that had a few dings on the side but ran well. The dealer didn't ask too many questions, just smiled when I handed over the money and said, "Starting over?" I nodded. Back at the motel, I gathered my things into one suitcase. The air was stale, and I could hear a couple fighting 2 doors down, but I didn't care. The moment I zipped that suitcase closed, it felt symbolic. I wasn't just leaving the room. I was leaving that version of me behind. As I stepped outside, the late afternoon sun hit different, warmer, freer. I slid into the driver's seat of the Honda, shut the door, and just sat there for a moment, breathing in the silence. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the last text message Emma had sent. And this time, I replied, but not with words. I just sent her a photo of the car keys in my hand, and then I turned off my phone. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known was that while I was driving toward the next chapter, something was unraveling back at home, something they'd been hiding, something I was never meant to find out. I didn't check my phone again for 3 full days. I stayed off the grid, more or less, parked at rest stops, crashing in the car when I needed to, scribbling notes about essays I wanted to write, stories I wanted to finish. And for the first time in years, I wasn't writing for school or approval or family praise. I was writing for me, my own voice, my own name. I finally turned my phone back on in a library parking lot 2 towns over, just long enough to check messages, make sure there wasn't some emergency that needed my attention. That's when I saw it. 13 missed calls from Aunt Jen, 4 from Claire, 1 from an unknown number that had a location tag from a local police department. I felt the weight of it immediately, the dread, the pulse in my neck, the instinct that whatever was coming next wasn't just petty family drama. I called Claire first. She answered immediately. "Alex? Thank God. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said slowly. "What's going on?" There was a pause on her end. Then, "You should sit down." I stayed standing. "It's Dad," she said. "He's in the hospital. He collapsed at work yesterday. Apparently, it was his heart. Stress, the doctor thinks. They had to call 911. My stomach dropped. For a moment, everything around me, the trees, the concrete, the sun, just froze. "I'm not saying you have to rush back," she added quickly. "I just thought you should know. You're his son." No matter what happened, I stayed silent for a long time. She didn't fill the silence. She just waited. "Is he stable?" I finally asked. "Yeah," she said. "For now." I hung up without promising anything. I sat in my car for a full hour, staring at the steering wheel, trying to feel something other than the thick fog of confusion. I didn't hate my dad. He had always been the quieter enabler, the man who didn't scream, didn't throw things, but never stood up for me either. He just stood by, let it happen. But part of me remembered the late nights when he'd bring me tea while I studied or silently fixed something in my room without saying a word. A part of me remembered when he taught me how to change a tire back when I thought that meant he believed I'd be going places. So I drove. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I just showed up at the hospital, unshaven and exhausted, still wearing the same hoodie from days before. I asked the front desk for James Walker. The nurse looked at me, then at her screen, and said, "Room 308. I found it after getting lost twice. Inside, Dad was pale, thinner, older than I remembered, like the last few weeks had aged him by years. He was asleep. Mom sat beside him in the recliner, hunched and quiet. When I walked in, she looked up, and for the first time in my life, she looked small. Not weak, not helpless, just small. "Alex," she breathed, like she wasn't sure I was real. I didn't say anything. She stood slowly. "I didn't think you'd come." "I didn't come for you," I said. "I came for him." She flinched, then nodded. "He was asking for you," she said quietly. "Even when they put him under, he kept saying your name." I stepped forward slowly. Dad stirred, eyes fluttering open like they were fighting gravity. When he saw me, something in his expression broke. "Alex," he rasped. "Yeah," I said, sitting in the chair Mom had been in. "It's me." He blinked slowly, like he wasn't sure I was really there. I'm sorry." I didn't answer. I just let him keep talking. I should have stopped her. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't want another fight. She said it was just for a month, that we'd replace it. "It never is," I said. "With her, it's never just once." "I know," he whispered. "I know that now." We didn't say much else. Just sat there, existing. That was enough. After a while, I left. I didn't want to talk to Mom, and she didn't try to stop me. But as I passed the billing office, one of the administrators flagged me down. "You're James Walker's son?" she asked. "Yes." She hesitated. "There's something you should know. His insurance claims have been denied. Late payments on premiums. There's a backlog going back 6 months." I frowned. "He's always had coverage through his job." She gave me a tight smile. "The coverage lapse due to non-payment. Someone's been redirecting the premium payments. You might want to look into the family finances." My gut turned cold. I thanked her, left the hospital, and drove straight to the credit union where I still had a small account from high school. Since I'd recently turned 20, I was able to request information about any accounts where I might be listed as a beneficiary or emergency contact. The banker pulled up the records and handed me a printed sheet. What I saw made my hands tremble. Thousands of dollars in cash withdrawals, transfers to unfamiliar accounts. The biggest one, $11,000 sent to a name I didn't recognize. I looked closer. It wasn't Emma. It wasn't Mom. It was Aiden Quinn. I didn't recognize the name until I remembered. That was the last name of Mom's coworker, the friend she always texted during dinner. The one Dad once asked about, and she said, "Oh, don't be jealous. He's married." Except he wasn't. I spent the next 2 hours at the bank and the library downtown. I pulled public records. I searched everything. Aiden Quinn was real. Divorced. Recently moved out of state. And 5 months ago, the same time those big withdrawals started, he bought a second home in New Mexico with help from a $30,000 wire deposit under my mother's name. It all snapped into place. The sudden decision to sell my car, the demand to co-sign, the missing tuition money. It wasn't just for Emma. Mom had been siphoning money, setting herself up, preparing an escape plan. But when I refused to sign, refused to stay, it all collapsed. She gambled with my future, with my dad's stability, with Emma's debt, not for the family, but for herself. And now Dad was in a hospital bed, wondering why his credit cards were failing. I went back to the hospital the next morning and told him everything. He didn't say a word. Just stared ahead at the wall, his expression crumbling inch by inch. When I was finished, he nodded once. Just once. Then said, "Get me a lawyer." Over the next 2 weeks, Claire and I helped him start the legal process. He consulted with a lawyer about removing Mom from joint accounts. The attorney explained it would take time to freeze the credit lines, file fraud paperwork, and report the wire transfers. The divorce papers were filed a month later. She never saw it coming. Emma tried to reach out again a few days later. A text this time, Mom's moving out. She says you destroyed everything. I didn't respond. A month later, I officially moved into student housing, re-enrolled in university, and accepted a scholarship increase after submitting my revised story. The title? When the Ones You Love Build a Cage and Call It Home. It won an award. Dad is healing. Slowly, Claire visits often. We're not a perfect family. Maybe never were, but the parts worth saving are still here. As for Mom, she sent me one last message. No apology. No explanation. Just, I hope someday you understand why I did what I had to do. I deleted it. I didn't need to understand. I needed peace. And now, I finally had it. 6 months into my new life, I was sitting in my dorm room grading papers for the freshman writing course I'd been hired to tutor when my phone buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize, but the area code was familiar. Against my better judgment, I answered. Alex? The voice was shaky, uncertain. It took me a moment to place it. Emma? Yeah, it's me. She sounded different. Smaller. I got your number from Claire. I hope that's okay. I didn't say anything. I just waited. I wanted to call sooner, but I didn't know what to say. I still don't, really. She paused, and I could hear traffic in the background. I'm in therapy now. Court ordered, actually, after some stuff went down with the debt collectors. But it's helping, I think. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. What do you want, Emma? I want to apologize. Really apologize, not just say sorry because someone told me to. Her voice cracked slightly. I've been thinking about that night, about what we did to you, and I can't sleep anymore. The therapist says I need to take responsibility for my part in it. Your part? I couldn't keep the edge out of my voice. My debt. My choices. My inability to grow up and handle my own problems. She took a shaky breath. You were never supposed to fix me, Alex. That wasn't your job. But somehow, somewhere along the way, I convinced myself it was. And Mom and Dad, they enabled it. We all enabled it. I found myself listening more carefully. This wasn't the Emma I remembered, the one who deflected and blamed and made excuses. I know you probably don't believe me, she continued. And I don't blame you if you hang up right now. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to be different. I got a job at a call center. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. I'm paying off what I can, slowly. And I'm not asking Mom and Dad for anything anymore. What about the debt? I asked. I'm filing for bankruptcy. My lawyer says it's the cleanest way to start over. Mom's furious about it, says it'll reflect badly on the family, but I don't care anymore. I can't keep living in this hole I dug. There was silence for a moment. Then she added, quietly, I heard about Dad. About what Mom was doing with the money. I'm sorry, Alex. For all of it. For the birthday thing, for the co-signing, for everything. You deserved better from all of us. I wasn't sure what to say. Part of me wanted to hang up, to protect the peace I'd worked so hard to build. But another part, a smaller part, recognized something genuine in her voice. I'm glad you're getting help, I said finally. Yeah, me too. She paused. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I wanted you to know that you were right to leave. You were right about everything. After we hung up, I sat in my room for a long time, processing the conversation. It didn't erase what had happened, didn't magically heal the wounds or restore the trust that had been broken. But it was something. A crack in the wall, maybe. A possibility that people could change, even when it seemed impossible. The next week, I received an unexpected package. Inside was a small wooden frame containing my old high school graduation photo, the one that used to sit on Mom's dresser. There was a note attached in Emma's handwriting. Thought you might want this back. You look proud in it. You should be. E. I placed it on my desk, next to my laptop and the scholarship certificate I'd received for my essay. It felt right there, somehow. A reminder of where I'd come from and how far I'd traveled. College became my sanctuary. I threw myself into my studies, made new friends who didn't know my history, professors who valued my work, and built a life that was entirely my own. Some nights, when the campus was quiet and I was alone with my thoughts, I'd think about forgiveness. Not the kind that erases or excuses, but the kind that sets you free. I wasn't there yet. Maybe I never would be. But for the first time in months, the possibility didn't terrify me. I had learned that peace wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending it didn't hurt. It was about choosing your future despite it all. And my future? It was looking brighter every day.